You should not be chasing every opportunity that comes to you. And there's many reasons why you shouldn't be doing this, especially if you're in business. The idea that in business that you're always going to be, things are going to be thrown in your way. You're going to be offered these things. You're going to be offered a better deal here. Internet's cheaper here. Your lead source here. All of these things are big factors when you're in business. But even if you're not in business, there's other things that you can be offered, and whether that's life things, right? So maybe that the person that you think you should be with, but you shouldn't be with, the friends that you should be friends with, but you shouldn't be friends with, right? All of these things are offers and they're opportunities in your life, and you've got to be able to say no to these things so you can be able to say yes to these things. And a lot of this is just a simple fact that I've been living life for 32 years now, and I've gotten a little bit of knowledge from my past 32 years. There are three main things that I want to touch base here that are going to be able to help you kind of process these thoughts and hopefully be able to help you say no to more things that you should be saying no to instead of saying yes, right? So let's go through it. The first one is going to be everything that you say yes to is a bill that you are going to have to pay later in life. And to further elaborate on that, the idea that just because you say yes now doesn't mean that you're going to have the cost of that now. Things come later in life, right? So because you said yes to, let's just say $1,300 on this lead source, you now don't have the budget in the event that the other lead source comes up. And that's a simple example, but it also works in life. So let's say that you say yes to a friendship that later on down the road turns out to be not that great, or they are a negative person, and you are now pulled, you've been pulled downward versus pushed upward. And that is something that can be across the board. Every time you say yes, there's a cost. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to bring to you is because you say yes now, there's a cost of the amount of time that you had to determine whether that was a good idea or not, the money cost of things, the time expenditure. Opportunity is never free. You're always going to be giving up something for something. And whether that's time, that's money, that's value of some sort that you're not going to be able to get back, that's always the cost. And let's just say there's a big thing that's in front of you, right? You can say yes or you can say no. It's a job opportunity. It's a vacation opportunity. It's whatever it is. You have to take the time to elaborate on the idea of what this is, which costs time. You have to make the time for that event, which again costs time. And then if you're going to travel or if you're taking a job over another job, maybe that costs you money. And so understand that the entirety of the process is going to make a cost. And so you have to be willing to give up that cost to get the opportunity, and not every opportunity is worth the cost that you give it. For real estate terms here, it's the lead source that reaches out to you and says, we can give you the best deal here. The brokerage that says, hey, we're going to give you the best deal here. Agent that says, hey, I'm going to do the best that I can on your team, or, whatever it is. There are so many costs to things that happen, right? Like I've had agents come onto the team and they say, oh, they're going to be amazing. These are their big goals. And all they do is just suck the time and the training from other agents that you could be working with. You ultimately end up spending so much more time on these people, and then they walk out the door because they didn't get the quality that they wanted. And in all reality, they were never going to achieve the goals that they actually set. The next piece is going to be focus. Focus is not saying no to bad ideas. Focus is saying no to good ideas. The ideas that you think are going to work, right? And that could work if they just have a little bit more thought or effort into them. That is a mistake in a beautiful suit, right? Like the idea that someone or something is going to be the perfect fit, and you have to evaluate whether it actually is going to be a good fit or not, because anything can look good. Every opportunity looks like growth in the beginning, and then you start down the road and you realize, okay, well, this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And then you have to make the adjustment to get back on track. For example, there have been so many times in my business that something seemed like a good idea. And so I go balls deep into this thing. And then I realized very quickly that probably shouldn't have done that, right? There was a time a couple years ago where we saw opportunity in Realtor.com, and we started to see some results, and I'm like, man, we're converting at like 4% here. That at that point in time was for an internet lead was just ridiculous. And so I was like, okay, well, we're converting really, really, really good. We may as well go ahead and go balls deep. Let's go all in on this. Like, I push all the chips in on this idea. And the moment that we did that, we had an uptick in conversion just because we were getting more leads. But then I started to realize over the next year that we were actually way under on that, but we had signed a 12-month agreement at $1,300 a month, and that whole process just absolutely demolished what we could have been doing. We could have been using that money for other things, but because I said yes to this opportunity and locked us into a 12-month agreement, we had to finish out that 12-month agreement. And so, there's little things that seem like great ideas, and if you don't evaluate it hard enough, and sometimes you're just never going to know. You're going to have to go balls deep before you will actually be able to figure out, okay, the other side of this is not what I thought it was. And those are learning lessons. It comes with experience to be able to start evaluating things, but there's also so much more of the ability to start doing that at a very high level so that you don't have to learn from experience. Now, that's not to say, go into paralysis analysis and not make a decision, but be able to come up with a confident process of how you're going to maneuver that. We've been over so many different options with this where it's like, offer a 1-3-1 on the situation, or be able to break it down on a whiteboard and say, okay, these are the things that we need to do. What is the best puzzle piece that fits in this puzzle, and you can start making maneuvers from there. Something else that has allowed me to dive a little bit deeper on certain things is, does this opportunity tie directly to the goal for the year? And if it doesn't, then at that point, I'm not, obviously that's a direct no. But there are really good ideas out there that especially like team members bring to you that you're like, man, that's a good idea. But if we spend too much time evaluating it, or if we spend too much time or money diving into that, it could cost us energy and money and time that we should not have been doing, and we should have just been focused on where we were at. Those two lead into the third point, which is going to be depth always beats width. And so if you can focus on the things that are bringing, whether it be money, time, bringing you more just productivity, you need to start being able to focus on those items. And like I said, with the Realtor.com thing, I saw a good data point and I was like, okay, well, we just need to go hammer onto this, right? We just need more of that. Not realizing that it's not just the money, right? The money was okay. The idea is the time that we are now dedicating this amount of money to this item. And if you focus too much on, okay, well, we can make this make sense as long as these numbers make sense, you're not tying it to the timeline, which ultimately the goal is not to be focused there. It's to be focused on a different type of lead source that we control. So that there's certain things, but deep depth is always going to beat width. So in real estate terms, that would be, okay, well, let's figure out what our niche is, and let's focus on that niche, and let's dive deeper into who those people are. Where do they come from? What type of career do they have? What location are they looking for homes? Those people are who we want to sell to, because that's who we are selling to, and that's who we enjoy selling to. So we have to narrow down and just dive deep on how do we build that process for those people. We are really starting to get good at that and being able to focus on who that avatar is and really just diving deep. So whether it be business or real estate related type information, I want to be able to bring something that is valuable to multiple different aspects. And I think that this is one of those things that, just because I use it in real estate and just because I use it in my business directly, I also use this type of mentality in my life. I'm not always the best at it with my personal life, but I do notice that if I do focus on these things and I do hammer on the idea of, okay, how do I go deep on this? how do I focus on what's actually producing, growth in my life? I also understand what my long-term goal is. I can then start applying these things to that and say, okay, failure is going to be there, right? That's always going to be there. That's always going to be the other side of the cliff. But that shouldn't stop you from jumping. But you also should know what you're trying to aim for and understand that every opportunity comes with a cost, and you have to be willing to give that cost. And a lot of times in business, especially when you're first starting, or you're building your life, let's say you're fresh out of college or whatever it may be, you need to be able to say, okay, what is the goal? What opportunity is in front of me? And then how do I catapult to my goal with this opportunity? And does it make sense, right? But through the three things: financially, time-wise, and then the energy-wise that you're going to be spending on that. That would be the video for today. I hope that's beneficial. I hope that works. I hope that gives you some sort of perspective and being able to hit your goals a little bit further and faster. With that being said, if you guys have any questions, if you want to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us. We're always here for comments. And if you like the content, follow.